Welcome to Zen Mind Temple. Tonight, you will discover a powerful secret for millennia. Zen wisdom has been a remedy for calming the mind. Over the next 3 hours, let ancient stories interweave with rain sounds to take you away from chaos. Adjust your pillow, letting your body fully relax. Now breathe deeply with me, feeling air fill your chest as you inhale, releasing all tension as you exhale. Listen closely, and you will hear the gentle percussion of raindrops on bamboo leaves, a rhythm as old as the mountains themselves. It is the sound of time slowing down, of the world softening at the edges, inviting you to step into a space beyond hurry and worry. Let this sound wrap around you like a well-worn robe, familiar and comforting, as we journey to a tea garden in the misty hills of ancient China. The air here carries the earthy sweetness of damp soil mingled with the fresh, grassy aroma of tea leaves, newly plucked, still glistening with moisture. Your shoes sink slightly into the moss-covered stones that wind through the garden, each step a quiet reminder of the ground beneath you, solid and reliable. To your left, a small stream chuckles over smooth pebbles, its melody weaving through the rain's percussion. Somewhere in the distance, a wooden pavilion stands with its roof tiles glistening, smoke curling gently from a stone hearth inside. This is where we will meet Master Zhao Zhou, a man whose simple words would echo through centuries, carrying the weight of a truth so profound it can still stop a racing mind in its tracks now. It is the 9th century, and the tea garden belongs to a monastery nestled in the Tianning Mountains. The rain has been falling steadily since dawn, turning the world into a watercolor painting where greens and browns blur softly at the edges. Master Zhou Zhou, then in his 80s, moves through the garden with the deliberate grace of one who has spent a lifetime attending to the present moment. His hands are calloused from decades of work-tilling soil, carrying water, arranging tea bowls, and his eyes hold the quiet warmth of someone who has learned to find joy in the simplest things. A well-brewed cup of tea, the sound of rain, a question asked with sincerity. A young monk approaches, his robes damp from the rain, his brow furrowed with the intensity of one wrestling with spiritual questions. He has traveled for months to seek guidance from Master Zhao Zhao, hoping to find answers to the questions that keep him awake at night. What is the nature of reality? How can one achieve enlightenment? What is the purpose of suffering? As he reaches the pavilion, he bows deeply, his heart pounding with both reverence and anxiety. "Venerable Master," he says, his voice trembling, "I have come to seek your wisdom. Please teach me the path to enlightenment." Master Zhao Zhou looks at him with kindness, then gestures to a wooden bench. "Have some tea," he says simply. The young monk is confused. He has traveled hundreds of miles, endured hardship and doubt, and this is the response he receives? An invitation to tea? He hesitates, then sits, his mind racing with frustration. Surely there is more to enlightenment than drinking tea. He opens his mouth to press for a more profound answer, but before he can speak, Master Zhao Zhou pours steaming tea into a small clay cup and hands it to him. "Drink," he says. The monk takes the cup, his fingers wrapping around its warmth. The steam rises, fogging his glasses, and for a moment, his thoughts pause. He blows gently on the tea and takes a small sip. The flavor is rich, slightly bitter, with a subtle sweetness that lingers on his tongue. He takes another sip, and then another, and as he does, something shifts. The questions that have been tormenting him about enlightenment, about purpose, about the nature of reality begin to fade, if only for a moment, replaced by the simple sensation of warmth spreading through his body, the sound of rain on the pavilion roof, the taste of tea on his lips. "Do you understand?" Master Zhao Zhou asks. The monk looks up, surprised. In that moment, he does understand, not with his intellect, but with his entire being. He understands that enlightenment is not some far-off state to be achieved through endless questioning or striving, but a quality of presence that is available in this very moment, in the act of drinking tea, in the sound of rain, in the warmth of a cup in one's hands. He bows again, this time with a heart that is lighter, a mind that is quieter. "Thank you, Master," he says. Master Jiaozhou smiles. "Another cup?" This simple exchange, "have some tea," would become one of the most famous koans in Zen Buddhism, a teaching tool designed to jolt the mind out of its habitual patterns of thinking and into direct experience. A koan, by the way, is a story, dialogue, question, or statement used in Zen practice to provoke enlightenment, often seeming paradoxical or nonsensical to the rational mind. But its purpose is not to be solved, but to be experienced, to break through the layers of conceptual thinking that separate us from the immediacy of life. The Buddha himself spoke of this quality of presence, this ability to be fully alive to the present moment. In the Majjhima Nikaya, a collection of his discourses, he said, "When walking, the monk knows I am walking. When standing, he knows I am standing. When sitting, he knows I am sitting. When lying down, he knows I am lying down." This is the practice of mindfulness, being aware of what is happening in the present moment, without judgment or distraction. It is the same wisdom that Master Jiaozhou was pointing to with his invitation to tea, that the path to peace, to enlightenment, to freedom from suffering, is not found in some distant future or far-off place, but right here, right now, in the simple acts of our daily lives. So why is this so difficult for us? Why do we spend so much of our lives caught in thoughts of the past or worries about the future, missing the very moments we are living? Modern psychology offers some insights. Our brains are wired for what is called the default mode network, set of brain regions that become active when we are not focused on the external world. This network is responsible for self-referential thinking, planning for the future, ruminating on the past, imagining what others think of us, and so on. Wow! This ability to mentally time travel is useful for certain tasks. It can also be a source of great suffering. When we are caught in the default mode network, we are not fully present to our lives, and we often create stories about ourselves and our experiences that cause stress, anxiety, and unhappiness. Think about it. How much of your anxiety comes from something that is happening right now, in this very moment? Chances are, most of it comes from thoughts about what might happen in the future, or what should have happened in the past. We worry about a meeting that's coming up, regret something we said yesterday, or feel inadequate because of a mistake we made years ago. All of these thoughts pull us out of the present moment, creating a sense of disconnection from ourselves. And our lives. The practice of mindfulness, of being fully present to the here and now, is a powerful antidote to this tendency. When we bring our attention to the present moment, whether it's the taste of tea, the sound of rain, or the sensation of our breath, we interrupt the cycle of rumination and worry, and we create space for peace and clarity. This is not to say that we ignore the past or the future, but rather that we recognize that the only moment we ever truly have is this one. As the Buddha said in the Dhammapada, the past is already gone, the future is not yet here. There's only one moment for you to live. So how can we cultivate this quality of presence in our own lives? Let's return to the tea garden, to the simple act of drinking tea. Notice how when the young monk focused on the tea, its warmth, its flavor, its aroma, his racing thoughts quieted. He was no longer caught in his head, but in his senses, in his experience of the moment. This is the essence of mindfulness practice, coming back to our senses again and again. Whenever we notice that our minds have wandered. Tonight, I invite you to practice this simple act of presence. Find a comfortable position, either sitting or lying down, and take a few deep breaths, feeling the air fill your lungs and then release. Now, bring your attention to your senses. Notice what you see, the shape of the room, the play of light and shadow. Notice what you hear, the sound of your breath, the distant hum of an appliance, or perhaps the rain outside your window. Notice what you feel, the weight of your body against the chair or bed, the temperature of the air on your skin, the sensation of your clothes against your body. If you have a cup of tea or another beverage nearby, take it in your hands and really drink it. Notice the warmth of the cup in your hands, the smell of the tea, the way it feels as it touches your lips and slides down your throat. If you don't have a beverage, simply focus on the sensation of your breath or the sound of your heartbeat. Whatever you choose to focus on, the key is to bring your full attention to it without judgment. Without trying to change anything. As you do this, you may notice that your mind starts to wander. Thoughts about the day, plans for tomorrow, or memories from the past may arise. This is completely normal. Our minds are like monkeys, jumping from branch to branch. When you notice that your mind has wandered, simply gently bring your attention back to your chosen object of focus, whether it's the tea, your breath, or the sound of rain. Do this again and again, without frustration or self-criticism. Each time you bring your attention back, you are strengthening your mindfulness muscle, developing the ability to stay present more consistently. This practice may seem simple, but it is profoundly powerful. Over time, it can help you to break free from the cycle of rumination and worry and to find peace in the present moment. It can help you to appreciate the small joys of life, the taste of food, the sound of a loved one's voice, the beauty of a sunset that so often passes by when we are caught in our thoughts. As we sit here, surrounded by the sound of rain and the memory of the tea garden, let's take a moment to breathe deeply. Inhale slowly, feeling the air fill your lungs, and then exhale, releasing any tension you may be holding. With each breath, allow yourself to sink more deeply into the present moment, into the awareness that you are alive, right here, right now. Remember, the path to peace is not a distant destination, but a journey that begins with this moment, with this breath, with this act of awareness. As Master Zhao Zhou would say, have some tea. In other words, be here, be now, and trust that this moment is enough. As we continue our journey tonight, let's carry this awareness with us. Whenever you notice that your mind has wandered, simply return to your breath, to the sound of rain, or to the sensation of your body against the surface beneath you. Each return is an act of kindness toward yourself, a reminder that you are exactly where you need to be, and that peace is always available, if only you are willing to pause and receive it. The rain continues to fall outside the tea garden, a gentle reminder of the impermanence of all things. The tea will cool, the rain will stop, and this moment will pass, just like all moments do. But in this passing, there is a kind of beauty, a kind of freedom. When we let go of our attachment to how things should be, and instead embrace how they are, we open ourselves to the fullness of life, with all its joys and sorrows, its pleasures and pains. So let's sit with this for a moment longer, just breathing, just being. No need to do anything, no need to fix anything. Just allowing ourselves to be present to this moment, exactly as it is. Deep breath in and out. Again, in and out. Feel the peace that comes with simply being, with letting go of the need to control or understand or achieve. This is the peace that Master Zhou pointed to with his simple invitation to tea, the peace that the Buddha taught in his discourses, the peace that is always available to us, if only we remember to pause and notice. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, carry this awareness with you. Let the sound of rain lull you into a state of deep relaxation, and let the memory of the tea garden remind you that peace is not something to be found outside of yourself, but something to be discovered within. in the quiet moments of presence. As we prepare to move to our next story, take one more deep breath and set an intention to remain present, to notice the beauty and the wisdom that surrounds you in this moment and all moments to come. Peace is here now in the sound of rain, in the rhythm of your breath, in the quiet stillness of your being. Just notice, just be, have some tea. The rain has softened now, a fine mist that hangs in the air like a sigh. Let it carry you from the tea garden across the misty hills to a quiet lake nestled between two mountains. The water here is so still, it mirrors the sky perfectly, as if the heavens have dipped the corner of their vastness into the earth. Above, the moon hangs full and bright, its silver light spilling over the landscape, turning the world into a place of quiet magic. This is where we will meet Chan Master Nangquan, a teacher whose wisdom was as deep and clear as the lake before. U.S. It is the 8th century, and Nangquan has brought his disciples to the lake to sit in meditation beneath the moon. They sit in a circle on the shore, their robes blending with the shadows, their breath matching the slow rhythm of the water. The only sounds are the soft rustle of wind through the pines and the occasional plop of a fish breaking the surface of the lake. After some time, Nangquan turns to his disciples and gestures toward the water. Look at the moon reflected in the lake, he says. Is that the real moon or just an illusion? One of the younger disciples, a man named Zhao Zhou, who would later become a great master himself, speaks up. It is an illusion, master. The real moon is in the sky. Nangquan nods, but his eyes hold a question. And if I were to stir the water with a stick, what would happen to the moon? It would become distorted, broken into pieces, Zhao Zhao replies. And when the water becomes still again? Nangquan asks. The moon would return to its original form, Zhao Zhou says. Nangquan smiles. But where did the moon go when the water was disturbed? Did it cease to exist? Did it change form? Zhao Zi pauses, considering this. No, master. The moon remained. In the sky, unchanged. Only the reflection was disturbed. Exactly, Nangquan says. The moon is like our true nature, the essence of who we are, beneath the layers of thought, emotion, and identity. The lake is like our minds, and the reflection is what we think of as self, the story we tell ourselves about who we are, based on our experiences, our beliefs, and the opinions of others. When our minds are disturbed by anger, by doubt, by fear, the reflection becomes distorted, and we lose sight of our true nature. But the moon itself remains unchanged, just as our essence remains pure and perfect, no matter how much our minds may be stirred. This simple teaching cuts to the heart of one of the most profound insights in Buddhist philosophy, the concept of anatta, or non-self. Anatta, Pali for no self, is the understanding that there is no permanent, unchanging self that exists independently of our thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Instead, what we think of as self is a constantly changing collection of perceptions, emotions, and mental formations, like the reflection in the lake, which shifts and changes with every ripple. The Buddha taught this principle extensively. In his discourses, including in the Anattalakkhana Sutta, where he said, form is not self, sensation is not self, perception is not self, mental formations are not self, consciousness is not self. This is not to say that we do not exist, but rather that our sense of self is not fixed or permanent. It is a construct, a story we create based on the ever-changing flow of our experience. So, why does this matter? Because so much of our suffering comes from our attachment to this sense of self. We invest deeply in the story we tell ourselves about who we are, our successes, our failures, our strengths, our weaknesses, and we become defensive when this story is challenged. We worry about what others think of us because their opinions can shake the foundations of our self-image. We feel hurt when someone criticizes us because it feels like an attack on our very essence. We become anxious when our circumstances change because we fear that the self we have worked so hard to construct will be destroyed. Modern psychology supports this insight. Research has shown that our sense of self is closely tied to our self-esteem, which is in turn influenced by the feedback we receive from others. When we receive positive feedback, our self-esteem rises, and we feel good about ourselves. When we receive negative feedback, our self-esteem drops, and we feel bad. This is because we have identified so strongly with our self-image that we take others' opinions as reflections of our true worth. But just as the moon in the sky is not affected by the ripples in the lake, our true nature is not affected by the opinions of others. Their words and judgments are like sticks stirred in the water. They may disturb the reflection, but they cannot change the moon itself. This is not to say that we should ignore feedback or stop caring about how our actions affect others, but rather that we should not let the opinions of others define us. We are more than the stories we tell ourselves, more than the labels others place on us. Let's return to the lake with Nanquan and his disciples. Notice how the reflection of the moon changes with the slightest disturbance. A breeze, a fish, a stone dropped into the water. But the moon itself remains constant, unchanging. In the same way, our thoughts and feelings, our self-image, and the opinions of others are constantly changing, like the ripples on the lake. But beneath all of that, there is a core of being that is steady and unchanging, an essence that is not defined by anything external. This is the true self that Nanquan was pointing to, the self that exists beyond the stories and the labels, beyond the praise and the criticism. It is the self that is aware of the thoughts and feelings, but is not identical to them. It is the self that remains when all else fades away. So how can we connect with this true self and free ourselves from the suffering caused by our attachment to the changing reflection? The practice is similar to the one we began in the tea garden, but with a subtle shift. Instead of focusing on our senses, we focus on the awareness that is behind them, the part of us that is aware of seeing, hearing, feeling, and thinking, but is not itself seen, heard, felt, or thought. Tonight, I invite you to explore this awareness. Find a comfortable position and take a few deep breaths to settle your body and mind. Now, bring your attention to your thoughts. Notice that you are aware of your thoughts. They come and go like clouds in the sky, but there is a part of you that watches them without being swept away. This is the awareness we are talking about. Now, bring your attention to your feelings. Notice that you are aware of your feelings, whether they are pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, but you are not your feelings. They arise, they change, they pass away, but the awareness that observes them remains. Next, bring your attention to your sense of self, the story you tell yourself about who you are. Notice that this story is made up of thoughts and memories, which are constantly changing, but the awareness that is aware of this story is steady and unchanging. As you rest in this awareness, you may notice that the boundaries between self and other begin to blur. You may feel a sense of connection to the world around you, as if the separation between you and the rest of existence is just another story, another ripple in the lake. This is the experience of non-self, not a negation of our existence, but an expansion of it. It is the realization that we are not separate, isolated beings, but part of a vast, interconnected web of life. As the Buddha said in the Lotus Sutra, all beings are Buddhas, and all Buddhas are beings. We are all reflections of the same moon, all part of the same vast, interconnected reality. Let's take a moment to breathe deeply into this realization. Inhale, feeling the air fill your lungs, and exhale, releasing any attachment to the story of self. With each breath, allow yourself to rest more deeply in the awareness that is beyond all stories, beyond all labels, beyond all change. Notice how this feels. There may be a sense of lightness, of freedom, as if a heavy burden has been lifted. This is the freedom that comes from letting go of our attachment to the reflection and recognizing our connection to the moon itself. As we continue to sit with this, let's return to the lake and the moon. The reflection may still shift and change with the wind, but we know now that the moon remains unchanged. In the same way, our thoughts and feelings, our self-image, and the opinions of others may continue to change, but our true nature remains pure and perfect, just as it is. This realization can be particularly helpful when we find ourselves caught up in the opinions of others. When someone criticizes us, we can remember that their words are like sticks stirred in the lake. They may disturb the reflection, but they cannot change the moon. We can choose to listen to the feedback, to learn from it if it is helpful, but we do not have to let it define us. We can remain anchored in the awareness of our true nature, which is beyond all praise and criticism. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from attachment to things, to people, to ideas, and, most of all, to the sense of self. When we let go of these attachments, we find freedom. This does not mean that we stop caring about things or people, but rather that we do not cling to them, knowing that all things are impermanent, including our sense of self. As we prepare to move on, let's take one more deep breath and set an intention to remember the moon and the lake. Whenever we find ourselves caught up in the stories of self and other, whenever we feel hurt by the opinions of others or anxious about our place in the world, we can return to this image, to the moon that remains unchanged, no matter how much the water is stirred. The mist is beginning to lift now, and the first hints of dawn are painting the sky in soft shades of pink and orange. The lake still reflects the moon, but soon the sun will rise and a new day will begin. But the moon will not disappear. It will simply move beyond our view, continuing its journey through the sky, just as our true nature remains, even when we lose sight of it in the busyness of our lives. Peace comes when we recognize that we are more than the stories we tell ourselves, more than the opinions of others, more than the roles we play. We are the moon and the lake and the reflection all at once. We are part of something vast and beautiful, something that cannot be captured in words or defined by labels. As we carry this awareness with us, let's take a moment to breathe deeply, feeling the connection between our breath and the rhythm of the universe. Inhale and feel yourself expanding beyond the boundaries of your body, beyond the limits of your mind. Exhale and feel yourself grounded, rooted in the present moment, in the awareness of who you truly are. Just as the moon shines equally on the lake and the mountains, on the good and the bad, so too does your true nature shine, unconditionally, without judgment. You are perfect just as you are, in this moment and in every moment. Remember this as you drift towards sleep tonight. Let the image of the moon reflected in the still lake lull you into a state of deep peace, knowing that your true nature is always with you, steady and unchanging, no matter what ripples may disturb the surface of your mind. And when you wake tomorrow, carry this awareness with you. Let it be a gentle reminder that you are more than the stories you tell yourself, more than the opinions of others. You are a reflection of the infinite, a part of the vast and beautiful whole. Peace is here, now, in the stillness beneath the stories, in the awareness of your true nature. Just notice, just be. You are the moon and the lake and the reflection. The mist has fully lifted now, revealing a landscape bathed in the soft glow of early morning. The lake shimmers like a sheet of silver, and in the distance, you can hear the faint call of a bird, its sound echoing through the valley. Let this sound guide you now, away from the stillness of the lake and into the heart of the mountains, where a deep, resonant silence awaits, broken only by the echoes of your own footsteps and the whispers of ancient wisdom, we are heading to a monastery. Nestled in a narrow valley, surrounded by steep cliffs that rise like giants on either side. This is the home of Beizhang Huaihai, a Zen master whose teachings on work and practice would revolutionize the way monasteries operated and whose words still hold profound relevance for those of us struggling with the tension between action and inaction, productivity and peace. It is the 9th century, and the valley is alive with the sounds of activity. Monks move about their tasks with a quiet focus, chopping wood, carrying water, tending to the vegetable gardens, repairing the roofs of the simple wooden buildings. There is no hurry in their movements, no sense of strain or effort. Each action is performed with a kind of mindfulness, as if the task itself is a form of meditation. At the center of this activity is Beizhang himself, an elderly man with a weathered face and hands that tell the story of a lifetime of work. Even in his 80s, he can be found each day in the fields, hoeing the soil or harvesting vegetables, alongside the youngest monks. His robes are simple and patched, his posture straight but not rigid, his movements economical and precise. One morning, as the sun rises over the cliffs, casting long shadows across the valley, a young monk approaches Beizhang. The monk has been watching Beizhang work for weeks, and he is troubled by what he sees. "Venerable master," he says, bowing deeply, "you are advanced in years. Your body has served the Dharma faithfully for many decades. Why do you continue to work so hard when you could be resting, teaching, or meditating?" Beizhang looks up from his hoeing, a small smile playing on his lips. "What would you have me do?" he asks. "Let the younger monks tend to the fields and the repairs, master," the monk replies. "You have earned the right to rest. Your wisdom is needed in the meditation hall, not in the dirt." Beizhang sets down his hoe and wipes the sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. "Tell me, my friend," he says, "do you think the Buddha himself sat idle in his palace after enlightenment?" The monk is taken aback. "Of course not, master. The Buddha spent 45 years teaching, traveling from village to village, sharing the Dharma with anyone who would listen." "Exactly," Beizhang says. "And do you think he considered that work?" The monk pauses. "I suppose he saw it as his duty, his calling." "More than that," Beizhang says. "He saw it as part of his practice. For the Buddha, there was no separation between enlightenment and everyday life. Teaching was a form of meditation, just as sitting beneath the Bodhi tree was. And so it is for us. There is no division between work and practice, between action and meditation. They are one and the same." He picks up his hoe and begins to work again, his movements slow and deliberate. "I have a rule in this monastery," he says. "No work, no food. Yi ri bu zuo, yi ri bu shi." The words hang in the air, simple but profound. If we wish to eat, we must work. But more than that, if we wish to awaken, we must work. Not with resentment or ambition, but with mindfulness, with presence, with the understanding that every action is an opportunity to connect with the Dharma. The young monk listens, his confusion beginning to lift. "So work is a form of meditation?" he asks. "Work can be a form of meditation," Beizhang replies. "Just as sitting can be a form of meditation, or walking, or eating. The key is not the activity itself, but the quality of awareness we bring to it. When we chop wood, we chop wood. When we carry water, we carry water. We do not chop wood while thinking about carrying water, or carry water while thinking about chopping wood. We are fully present to the task at hand, and in that presence, we find peace." This teaching, no work, no food, became the foundation of the Zen monastic system, known as the Pure Land of Work. It was a radical departure from the practices of other Buddhist schools at the time, which often emphasized retreat from the world and a life of contemplation. Beijing recognized that work, when done with mindfulness, is not a distraction from spiritual practice, but a path to enlightenment itself. The Buddha himself taught this principle, though perhaps not in such direct terms. In the Majjhima Nikaya, he said, "Just as a skilled cartwright knows when to stop repairing a cart, a monk knows when to stop practicing." This is often interpreted as a warning against excessive asceticism, but it also speaks to the importance of balance, of integrating spiritual practice with the practical demands of life. The Buddha did not teach his followers to abandon the world, but to engage with it mindfully, with wisdom and compassion. In our modern world, this teaching is perhaps more relevant than ever. We live in a culture that often sees work and rest as opposites, that values productivity above all else, and that tells us we must earn our right to peace and happiness through our achievements. This creates a great deal of suffering. We feel anxious when we are not working, guilty when we are resting, and never quite satisfied, no matter how much we accomplish. At the same time, many of us struggle with procrastination, the avoidance of work, even when we know it needs to be done. This can create its own kind of suffering, stress, anxiety, self-criticism. We tell ourselves we are lazy, or incompetent, or unmotivated, and this only makes the problem worse. But what if we could approach work in the way Beijing taught, with mindfulness, with presence, without attachment to the outcome? What if we could see work not as a burden to be endured, but as a practice, an opportunity to awaken? Modern psychology offers some insights into why this approach might be effective. Research has shown that when we are fully engaged in a task, when we are in a state of flow, as psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi calls it, we experience a sense of timelessness, of joy, of complete absorption in the present moment. In this state, we are not thinking about the past or the future, not worrying about whether we are doing a good job or what others will think. We are simply doing, and in that doing, we find peace. Procrastination, on the other hand, is often rooted in our attachment to the outcome of our work. We are afraid of failing, of not being good enough, of being judged by others. So we avoid the task, hoping to avoid these negative feelings. But this only creates more suffering, as the task hangs over us like a cloud and our self-criticism grows stronger. Beijing's approach, no work, no food, is not about forcing ourselves to work out of fear or obligation, but about embracing work as a natural part of life, a way to engage with the world, to contribute, to grow. When we approach work with mindfulness, we let go of our attachment to the outcome, and we focus instead on the process, the feel of the hoe in our hands, the sound of the water as we carry it, the smell of the earth as we plant seeds. In this way, work becomes a form of meditation, a way to stay present, to connect with ourselves and the world around us. So how can we cultivate this mindful approach to work in our own lives? Let's return to the valley, to Beijing and his hoe. Notice how he works with focus, with intention, but without strain. He is not trying to finish quickly, or to prove himself, or to achieve some future goal. He is simply hoeing in this moment with full awareness. Tonight, I invite you to practice this kind of mindful action. It doesn't have to be work in the traditional sense. It can be any simple task: washing dishes, folding laundry, sweeping the floor, or even brushing your teeth. The key is to approach it with the same mindfulness that Beijing brought to his hoeing. As you begin the task, take a moment to breathe deeply, centering yourself in the present moment. Set an intention to be fully present, to give your complete attention to what you are doing. Notice the sensations involved, the feel of the water on your hands as you wash dishes, the sound of the broom against the floor as you sweep, the texture of the fabric as you fold laundry. If your mind wanders, and it will gently bring it back to the task at hand. Notice any thoughts or feelings that arise: frustration, boredom, impatience, but do not judge them. Simply acknowledge them and then return to the task. Notice how this feels. You may find that the task becomes easier, more enjoyable, even peaceful. You may find that time seems to slow down, or that you lose track of time altogether. This is the state of flow, the state of mindful action that Bei Zhang was pointing to. This practice can be particularly helpful if you struggle with procrastination. Instead of thinking about the entire task and feeling overwhelmed, focus on just one small part of it and do that part mindfully, and move on to the next small part, and so on. By breaking the task into manageable pieces and approaching each piece with full presence, you can avoid the anxiety that comes from thinking about the whole dot, as the Buddha said in the Dhammapada. Just as a mountain is not shaken by the wind, the wise are not shaken by praise or blame. In the context of work, this means that we do not let our self-worth be determined by our productivity or by the opinions of others. We work because it is part of life, part of our practice, but we do not attach ourselves to the results. We do our best, and then we let go. Let's take a moment to breathe deeply into this realization. Inhale, feeling the energy of action, of engagement with life. Exhale, releasing any attachment to the outcome, any need to prove ourselves. With each breath, allow yourself to be fully present to this moment, to the simple act of breathing, of being alive. The echoes of Bei Zhang's Ho still resonate in the valley, a reminder that work and practice are one, that action and meditation are not opposites, but part of the same whole. In this understanding, we can find freedom from the anxiety of procrastination, freedom from the stress of endless productivity, freedom to engage with life fully. In each moment dot, as we prepare to move on, let's carry this awareness with us. Whenever we approach a task, whether it's a work project, a household chore, or a creative endeavor, we can remember Bei Zhang in the fields, hoeing with mindfulness and peace. We can bring that same quality of presence to our own actions, knowing that each task is an opportunity to awaken, to connect with the Dharma, to be fully alive. The sun is now high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the valley. The monks have gathered for midday meal, sitting in silence as they eat the food they have worked so hard to grow. There is no conversation, but there is a sense of community, of shared purpose, of gratitude for the simple blessings of food and work and presence. This is the essence of Bei Zhang's teaching, that every moment is a moment of practice. Every action is an opportunity to awaken. Every bite of food is a reminder of the interconnectedness of all things dot as we continue our journey. Let's take a moment to breathe deeply, feeling the connection between our breath and the rhythm of the world around. U.S. Inhale and feel the energy of life flowing through you. Exhale and release any tension or resistance. Peace is not found in idleness, nor in endless busyness. It is found in the quality of our presence, in the mindfulness we bring to each action. Whether we are hoeing a field, washing dishes, or simply sitting and breathing. Remember this as you go about your day tomorrow. Let each task be a meditation, each action a prayer, each moment opportunity to awaken. Peace is here, now, in the work of the present moment, in the mindfulness we bring to what is right in front of us, not just notice. Just do. No work, no food, no presence, no peace. The sun has begun its slow descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in vibrant hues of orange and purple. As we leave the valley behind, the sounds of work and activity fade, replaced by a quieter, more contemplative atmosphere. We are heading to a small temple on the outskirts of a village, surrounded by a grove of bamboo that sways gently in the evening breeze. The air here is cool and fragrant, carrying the scent of jasmine and damp earth. This is where we will meet Master Huineng, perhaps the most influential Zen master in Chinese history. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Huineng was not a scholar, or a member of the aristocracy. He was a woodcutter illiterate who stumbled upon the Dharma by chance and went on to become the sixth patriarch of Zen Buddhism. His teachings emphasized the inherent purity of the mind and the idea that enlightenment is available to everyone, regardless of their background or education. It is the 7th century, and the temple is quiet as the day draws to a close. Monks sit in meditation in the main hall, their posture straight, their breath steady. In the courtyard, a few monks are sweeping the stone steps, their brooms moving in slow, deliberate arcs. The bamboo grove casts long shadows across the courtyard, and as the wind blows, the shadows dance and shift, as if sweeping the steps themselves. Huineng stands at the edge of the courtyard, watching the shadows. A young monk approaches him, his face tight with frustration. "Master," he says, "I have been meditating all day, but my mind is still filled with anger and irritation. No matter how hard I try to calm it, the thoughts keep coming back. What am I doing wrong?" Huineng gestures to the bamboo shadows. "What do you see?" he asks. The monk looks at the shadows, confused. "I see the bamboo leaves moving in the wind, casting shadows on the steps." "And what do the shadows do?" Huineng asks. "They sweep across the steps, I suppose," the monk replies. "Do they leave any marks?" Huineng asks. The monk shakes his head. "No, master. When the wind stops, the shadows disappear, and the steps are as clean as before." "Exactly," Huineng says. "Your thoughts and emotions are like these bamboo shadows. They appear, they move, they dance across the surface of your mind, but they do not leave any marks. They are not solid, not permanent. They come and go, like the wind through the bamboo." The monk looks skeptical. "But my anger feels very real, master. It feels like it is part of me, like it is defining who I am." Huineng smiles. "Let me tell you a story," he says. "When I first came to this temple, I was put to work pounding rice. One day, while I was working, 2 monks were arguing in the courtyard. One said that the flag was moving. The other said that the wind was moving. They argued back and forth, but neither could convince the other. I stepped in and said, 'It is not the flag that moves, nor the wind. It is your mind that moves.'" Monk considers this for a moment. "So my anger is not real? It is just my mind moving?" "No," Huineng says. "Your anger is real in the moment, just as the movement of the flag is real in the moment. But it is not permanent. It is not who you are. It is a passing phenomenon, like the wind, like the shadows, like the thoughts that arise and fall in your mind." He continues, "I once wrote a verse. Bodhi is not a tree. The mirror is not a stand. Originally, there is nothing where can dust a light. Ben lei wu yi wu, he si shi chun ai. This means that the essence of your mind is pure and empty, like space. It has no form, no substance, no fixed nature. Thoughts and emotions arise in it, like clouds in the sky, but they do not stain it. They do not change its fundamental nature." This verse, "Originally there is nothing," became one of the most famous in Zen Buddhism, a direct challenge to the idea that we need to purify ourselves or accumulate merit to achieve enlightenment. Huineng taught that enlightenment is not something we gain, but something we realize our true nature, which is already pure and perfect, beneath the layers of thought and emotion. The Buddha taught the same principle of impermanence, or anicca, Pali, which is one of the 3 marks of existence, along with anatta, non-self, and dukkha, suffering. In the Anicca Sutta, he said, all conditioned things are subject to change. When one sees this with wisdom, one becomes disenchanted with suffering. This is the path to purity. In other words, everything that arises, thoughts, emotions, sensations, even the sense of self is conditioned, dependent on other factors, and therefore subject to change. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is fixed. This includes our emotions, no matter how intense they may feel in the moment. Modern psychology supports this understanding. Research has shown that emotions are temporary states, typically lasting only a few minutes, unless we fuel them with our thoughts and attention. When we cling to an emotion, when we tell ourselves stories about why we should be angry, or why we can't let go of irritation, we extend its life, turning a passing feeling into a persistent state of mind. This is what the young monk was doing. His anger, in itself, was a passing shadow, but by focusing on it, by identifying with it, by thinking about why he was angry, he was keeping it alive, making it feel more real and more permanent than it actually was. So how can we learn to let go of our emotions, to allow them to come and go like the bamboo shadows? The first step is to recognize them as passing phenomena, not as part of our identity. We can say to ourselves, I am feeling angry, rather than I am angry. This simple shift in language creates a little space between us and the emotion, reminding us that we are not our emotions. The second step is to observe the emotion without judgment, without trying to push it away or hold on to it. This is what mindfulness practice is all about, being present to our experience, whatever it is, with openness and curiosity. When we observe an emotion in this way, we see that it is constantly changing, like a river flowing, never the same for 2 moments. The third step is to remember the benshi, the essence of our minds, which is like the clear sky, or the empty space in which the bamboo shadows dance. This essence is not affected by the emotions that arise within it. It is pure, peaceful, and unchanging, no matter what storms may pass through. Tonight, I invite you to practice this kind of emotional mindfulness. Find a comfortable position and take a few deep breaths to settle your body and mind. Now, bring to mind a recent experience of irritation or frustration. A small thing, nothing too intense. It could be a traffic jam, a rude comment, a spilled drink. As you recall this experience, notice what happens in your body. Do you feel tension in your shoulders? A tightness in your chest? A fluttering in your stomach? These are the physical sensations associated with the emotion. Now, notice the thoughts that arise. What stories are you telling yourself about what happened? What judgments are you making about the situation or the people involved? Now, take a step back and observe these sensations and thoughts as if you were watching bamboo shadows dance across the steps. Notice that they are just sensations, just thoughts, nothing more. They are not you. They are not permanent. They are not in control. As you observe them, you may notice that they begin to change, to fade, to lose their intensity. This is the nature of emotions. They arise, they peak, they fall away like waves. In the ocean. If the emotion feels too strong, or if you find yourself getting caught up in it, return to your breath. Focus on the sensation of the air entering and leaving your lungs, the rise and fall of your chest. Let your breath be an anchor, keeping you grounded in the present moment, in the awareness that is larger than any emotion. Remember Lulling's verse? Originally, there is nothing, where can dust alight? Your mind, in its essence, is pure and empty like space. Emotions are like dust, but they cannot stain the space itself. They can only appear and disappear, like clouds in the sky. As the Buddha said in the Dhammapada, the mind is restless and wanders far. To control, it is good. A controlled mind brings happiness. This does not mean that we control our minds by force, by pushing away unpleasant thoughts and emotions, but rather that we learn to relate to them with wisdom and compassion, knowing that they are not who we are. Let's take a moment to breathe deeply into this realization. Inhale, feeling the space in your chest expand. Exhale, releasing any tension or resistance to whatever you are feeling. With each breath, remind yourself that you are not your emotions, that they are passing shadows, that your true nature is pure and peaceful. The bamboo continues to sway in the evening breeze, casting its shadows across the temple steps. The young monk watches, a look of understanding dawning on his face. He sees now that his anger is not a problem to be solved, but a phenomenon to be observed. A teacher showing him the impermanent nature of all things. As we prepare to move on, let's carry this awareness with us. Whenever we feel irritation, frustration, or anger arising, we can remember the bamboo shadows and Huineng's wisdom. We can observe the emotion without judgment, knowing that it is passing, that it is not who we are, that our true nature remains pure and peaceful, no matter what storms may pass through. The sun has set now, and the first stars are beginning to twinkle in the sky. The temple is quiet, except for the rustle of bamboo and the soft chanting of monks in the distance. There is a sense of peace here, a sense that all is as it should be, that even in the midst of change and impermanence, there is a deep, abiding stillness. This is the peace that comes from knowing that we are more than our thoughts and emotions, that we are the clear sky in which the clouds float, the empty space in which the bamboo shadows dance. This peace is always available to us if we can learn to rest in the awareness of our true nature. As we continue our journey, let's take a moment to breathe deeply, feeling that peace in the center of our being. Inhale and feel it expand. Exhale and let it flow out into the world around us. Peace is not the absence of emotions, but the awareness that lies beneath them, the clear space in which they arise and fall. It is the knowledge that originally there is nothing, no anger, no frustration, no suffering, that is inherently part of us. It is who we are, beneath all the stories and the shadows. Remember this as you go through your day tomorrow. When irritation arises, pause, breathe, and observe it as a passing shadow. Let it come, let it go, and rest in the peace that remains. Peace is here, now, in the empty space beneath the emotions, in the awareness of your true nature. Just notice. Just be. Originally, there is nothing. Where can dust the light? The night has deepened, and the stars now fill the sky like scattered diamonds, their light casting a soft glow over the landscape. As we leave the bamboo grove behind, we follow a narrow path that winds down the side of the mountain, guided by the sound of water. The air here is crisp and fresh, carrying the coolness of the night and the faint scent of pine. Ahead, we hear it more clearly, the gentle gurgle of a spring, its water flowing over smooth stones, creating a melody that seems to echo the rhythm of the universe. This is where we will meet Huaishin Lingyu, a Zen master known for his ability to find enlightenment in the most ordinary moments of life. Huaishin was a disciple of Bajang Huaihai, and he carried on his teacher's tradition of integrating spiritual practice with everyday activities. It is the 9th century, and we find ourselves in the kitchen of Huaishin's monastery, shortly before dawn. The kitchen is a simple stone building, with a large hearth at one end and wooden tables and benches along the walls. A few monks are busy preparing the morning meal, stirring a large pot of porridge over the fire, chopping vegetables, setting bowls out on the tables. The atmosphere is calm and focused, each monk attending to their task with mindfulness and care. Huaishin stands near the hearth, watching the porridge simmer. He is an older man, with a kind face and eyes that seem to see beyond the surface of things. One of his disciples, a young monk named Yunyan Tansheng, approaches him, holding a wooden spoon. "Master," Yunyan says, "when shall we eat jiu porridge, and when shall we eat fan rice?" Huaishin looks at Yunyan, then gestures to the pot of porridge. "When it's time to eat porridge, eat porridge. When it's time to eat rice, eat rice." Yunyan pauses, confused. "But master, that's what we always do. Is there more to it than that?" Huaishin smiles. "Tell me, Yunyan, When you eat porridge, do you think about rice? When you eat rice, do you think about porridge? Yunyan shakes his head. No, master. When I eat porridge, I eat porridge. When I eat rice, I eat rice. Then you understand, Huaishan says. Enlightenment is not found in some distant place or some extraordinary experience. It is found in eating porridge when it's time to eat porridge. In eating rice when it's time to eat rice, in being fully present to whatever is happening in this moment. Yunyan looks thoughtful. But what about meditation? What about studying the sutras? Are those not important for enlightenment? They are important, Huaishan says, but only if they are done with the same presence of mind that you bring to eating. Porridge or rice. You can sit in meditation for hours, but if your mind is elsewhere thinking about the past, worrying about the future, then you are not really meditating. You can read the sutras from morning till night, but if you do not apply their teachings to the way you eat, the way you speak, the way you treat others, then they are just words on a page. He stirs the porridge gently, the wooden spoon clinking, against the side of the pot. The problem is not with the activities themselves, Yunyan. It is with our minds, which are always rushing ahead, always looking for something more, something better. We think that enlightenment is a destination, a goal to be achieved, and so we miss the journey. But enlightenment is the journey. It is the way we walk, the way we eat, the way we breathe in each moment. This simple exchange between Huaishan and Yunyan about eating porridge and rice contains a profound truth about the nature of enlightenment. It is not a state of perfection to be attained, but a way of being in the world fully present, fully engaged with whatever is happening in this moment. It is about finding the sacred in the ordinary, the extraordinary in the everyday dot. The Buddha taught the same principle in many of his discourses. In the Majjhima Nikaya, he said, just as a skilled cook or cook's apprentice knows when to add salt to the soup, a monk knows when to apply himself to the practice. This means that spiritual practice is not something separate from life, but something that is integrated into every aspect of it. It is knowing when to meditate, when to study, when to work, when to rest, and, perhaps most importantly, when to eat. In our modern world, we often fall into the same trap that Yunyan almost fell into, thinking that happiness and fulfillment are to be found in some future event, some achievement, some possession. We rush through our meals, eating while working or watching TV, never really tasting the food. We rush through our days, always focused on what's next, never really experiencing what's now. We think that if we can just get that promotion, buy that house, find that relationship, then we will be happy. But when we get there, we find ourselves already looking ahead to the next thing, never quite satisfied. This is the cycle of craving and dissatisfaction that the Buddha called dukkha. It is the suffering that arises from our inability to be present, from our constant desire for things to be different from how they are. But there is a way out of this cycle, and it begins with learning to be fully present to the simple moments of life, like eating a meal, or listening to a spring, or feeling the night air on our skin. Modern psychology has a term for this state of presence: mindful eating. Research has shown that when we eat mindfully, paying attention to the taste, texture, and smell of our food, eating slowly and savoring each bite, we not only enjoy our food more, but we also eat less, digest better, and are more likely to make healthy choices. But the benefits of mindful eating go beyond physical health. It is a practice that can help us to break free from the cycle of craving and dissatisfaction, to find peace and contentment in the present moment. So how can we cultivate this kind of mindfulness in our own eating and in our own lives? Let's return to the kitchen with Huaishan and Yunyan. Notice how they approach the simple act of eating with attention, with gratitude, with presence. They are not eating to get to the next thing, but eating because eating is what is happening now And it is enough. Tonight, I invite you to practice mindful eating, even if it's just for a few bites. If you have a snack or a drink nearby, take a moment to prepare it with care. Notice the colors, the shapes, the textures of the food. Take a small bite and let it sit on your tongue for a moment, savoring the taste. Chew slowly, feeling the food break down in your mouth. Notice the sensation of swallowing and the way the food nourishes your body. If you don't have food nearby, you can practice mindful drinking with a glass of water. Notice the way the glass feels in your hand, the coolness of the water, the sound it makes as you take a sip. Let yourself be fully present to the experience. Without rushing, without distraction. As you do this, you may notice that your mind wants to wander, to think about the past, to worry about the future, to plan your next meal. When this happens, gently bring your attention back to the food, to the experience of eating. This is the practice returning to the present moment. Again and again. Remember Weishen's words. When it's time to eat porridge, eat porridge. When it's time to eat rice, eat rice. This is not just about eating. It's about life. When it's time to work, work. When it's time to rest, rest. When it's time to be with loved ones, be with loved ones. When it's time to be alone, be alone. Whatever you are doing, do it with your whole heart, your whole mind, your whole being. The Buddha said in the Dhammapada, "The fool who knows he is a fool is wise at least. The fool who thinks he is wise is a fool indeed." This means that wisdom begins with recognizing our own tendency to be distracted, to be caught up in our thoughts, to miss the present moment. It is not about being perfect, but about being aware of when our minds have wandered and gently bringing them back. Let's take a moment to breathe deeply into this awareness. Inhale, feeling the air fill your lungs, and exhale, releasing any tension or hurry. With each breath, allow yourself to be more present to this moment, to the sounds around you, to the sensations in your body, to the simple fact of being alive. The spring continues to flow outside the kitchen, its water, singing as it moves over the stones. The monks have finished preparing the meal, and they sit down together, bowing slightly before they begin to eat. There is no conversation, but there is a sense of community, of gratitude, of shared presence. They are not just eating porridge, they are practicing enlightenment, one bite at a time. As we prepare to move on, let's carry this awareness with us. Whenever we eat, let's eat with mindfulness. Whenever we work, let's work with mindfulness. Whenever we breathe, let's breathe with mindfulness. In this way, every moment becomes a moment of practice. Every action becomes a path to enlightenment. The moon has risen higher in the sky, casting its light over the spring, making the water sparkle like silver. The sound of the water is now joined by the gentle hooting of an owl in the distance, creating a symphony of night sounds that feels both ancient and timeless. There is a sense of peace here, a sense that everything is exactly as it should be. In this moment, this is the peace that comes from being present, from embracing the ordinary, from finding the sacred in the simple acts of life. It is the peace that Weishen and his monks knew, the peace that the Buddha taught, the peace that is available to us all. If we can just learn to slow down, to pay attention, to be here now. As we continue our journey, let's take a moment to breathe deeply, feeling that peace in every part of our being. Inhale and feel it expand. Exhale and let it flow out into the world. That peace is not found in some distant future, but in the present moment, in the taste of porridge, in the sound of a spring, in the rhythm of our breath. It is found when we stop searching for something more and start appreciating what is. Remember this as you go through your day tomorrow. When you sit down to eat, take a moment to be present. Savor each bite and let yourself be nourished not just by the food, but by the experience of eating. Peace is here, now, in the simple act of being present, in the awareness that this moment is enough. Just notice. Just eat. When it's time to eat porridge, eat porridge. When it's time to eat rice, eat rice. The night has wrapped itself around the world like a soft blanket, and the moon hangs low in the sky, its light filtering through the branches of a stand of ancient pine trees. We leave the sound of the spring behind us, following a path that leads to a small meditation hall nestled among the pines. The air here is thick with the earthy scent of pine needles and the faint aroma of incense, carried on a gentle breeze that stirs the branches, making a sound like whispers. This is where we will meet Dogen Zenji, one of the most important figures in Japanese Zen Buddhism. Dogen traveled to China in the 13th century to study Zen, and upon his return, he founded the Soto school of Zen, which emphasizes the practice of zazen-seated meditation as the path to enlightenment. His teachings are characterized by a deep emphasis on the present moment and the idea that practice itself is enlightenment. We enter the meditation hall quietly, removing our shoes at the door. The hall is simple and unadorned, with wooden floors polished smooth by centuries of use. A few cushions are arranged in neat rows, and at the front of the hall, a small altar holds a single candle, its flame flickering gently in the draft from an open window. Through the window, we can see the pine trees swaying in the wind, their shadows dancing on the walls. Dogen sits on a cushion near the window, his posture upright but relaxed, his eyes half closed, his breath steady and deep. He has been sitting in zazen for hours, but there is no sign of strain or restlessness in his demeanor. He seems completely at one with the moment, as if his being is as rooted and unchanging as the pine trees outside. A young monk enters the hall, his footsteps soft on the wooden floor. He bows to Dogen, then takes a cushion and sits down, crossing his legs and trying to imitate Dogen's posture. But his mind is restless, his body fidgety. He shifts from side to side, adjusts his legs, scratches his nose, all the while his thoughts racing. After a while, he opens his eyes and looks at Dogen. "Master," he says, his voice barely above a whisper, "I have been trying to meditate, but my mind won't stop. It's like a monkey jumping from branch to branch. No matter how hard I try to comb it, it just keeps going. What am I doing wrong?" Dogen opens his eyes and looks at the monk with a calm, steady gaze. "What are you doing now?" he asks. "I am sitting, Master," the monk replies. "Then sit," Dogen says. "That is all. Shikantaza, just sit." The monk looks confused. "But Master, my mind is racing. I am not really sitting. I am sitting, but I am thinking about everything else, my chores, my past mistakes, my future worries." "Thinking is part of sitting," Dogen says. "When thoughts arise, let them arise. When they pass, let them pass. Do not chase after them. Do not push them away. Just sit and let your awareness rest on your breath, on the sensation of your body sitting, on the sound of the wind in the pines. This is Shikantaza, just sitting, without striving, without goal, without expectation." The monk considers this. But isn't the point of meditation to empty the mind? To stop thinking altogether? Dogen shakes his head. The mind is like the wind in the pines. It moves, it makes noise, it changes direction. You cannot stop the wind, and you cannot stop the mind from thinking. But you can change your relationship to the wind, to the thoughts. You can be the mountain that watches the wind, the sky that contains the thoughts, without being disturbed by them. He closes his eyes again, but continues speaking. Shikantaza is not about controlling the mind, but about awakening to the nature of the mind. It is about realizing that you are not your thoughts, that you are the awareness in which thoughts arise and fall. When you sit in this way, you are not trying to achieve anything, not trying to become anything. You are simply being in this moment as you are. This teaching of shikantaza, just sitting, is at the heart of Soto Zen. It is a form of meditation that emphasizes presence over technique, being over doing. It is not about achieving a state of emptiness or tranquility, but about awakening to the fullness of each moment, just as it is with all its thoughts, feelings, and sensations. The Buddha taught the same approach to meditation in the Satipatthana Sutta, where he outlined the practice of mindfulness of body, feelings, mind, and phenomena. He said, just as a skilled butcher or his apprentice, having killed a cow, would sit at a crossroads, cutting it up into pieces, a monk should dissect the body into parts, from the head down to the feet, seeing it as composed of various elements. This is not a gruesome instruction, but a way of teaching us to observe our experience with clarity and detachment, seeing thoughts and feelings as they are, without being caught up in them. In our modern world, we are often overwhelmed by thoughts. Our minds race from one thing to the next, planning, worrying, ruminating, never stopping for a moment. This constant mental activity can be exhausting, leading to stress, anxiety, and a sense of disconnection from ourselves and the world around. We think that we need to clear our minds to find peace, but this only adds to our frustration when we find that our thoughts won't stop. Dogen's teaching of shikantaza offers a different approach. Instead of trying to stop our thoughts, we learn to observe them with a sense of curiosity and detachment. We recognize that thoughts are just thoughts, mental events that arise and fall, like waves in the ocean, without any inherent meaning or power. We are not our thoughts, and we do not have to be controlled by them. Modern neuroscience supports this understanding. Research has shown that meditation practice can help to strengthen the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for attention and self-awareness, while reducing activity in the default mode network, which is associated with mind wandering and self-referential thinking. This means that with practice, we can learn to observe our thoughts without being caught up in them, and to return to the present moment with greater ease. So how can we practice shikantaza in our own lives? It is simpler than you might think. Find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, and sit in a comfortable position, either on a cushion on the floor or on a chair with your feet flat on the ground. Straighten your spine, relax your shoulders, and let your hands rest gently in your lap. Close your eyes, or leave them slightly open, gazing softly at the floor in front of you. Bring your attention to your breath, not trying to change it, just noticing it as it is. Feel the air enter your nostrils, fill your lungs, and then leave your body. Notice the rise and fall of your chest, the sensation of your belly expanding and contracting. As thoughts arise, and they will simply notice them without judgment. You might say to yourself, thinking, and then gently return your attention to your breath. Do not chase after the thoughts. Do not analyze them. Do not try to make them go away. Just let them be, like clouds passing through the sky. If you find yourself getting caught up in a thought, don't worry. This is normal. Simply notice that your mind has wandered and gently bring it back to your breath. This is the practice returning, again and again, to the present moment. You don't need to sit for hours like Dogen and his monks. Even a few minutes of shikantaza each day can have a profound effect on your mental and emotional well-being. The key is to approach it with an attitude of non-striving, no trying to achieve anything, no trying to be perfect, just sitting, just being. Let's practice this for a moment now. Find a comfortable position and take a few deep breaths to settle your body. Now, let your breath return to its natural rhythm and simply observe it. Notice the sensation of the air moving in and out of your body, the rise and fall of your chest and belly. As thoughts arise, notice them and then let them go. Return to your breath, to the sensation of sitting, to to the sound of the wind in the pines, or whatever sounds are around you. Just sit, just be, in this moment. The Buddha said in the Dhammapada, "Mind is the forerunner of all things. Mind is their chief, and they are mind-made." This means that our experience of the world is shaped by our minds, by the way we relate to our thoughts and feelings. When we learn to relate to our minds with mindfulness and acceptance, we can transform our experience of the world, finding peace and clarity even in the midst of chaos. Dogen understood this deeply. For him, shikantaza was not just a meditation, practice, but a way of life. It was about bringing the same quality of presence and acceptance to every moment, whether sitting in meditation, chopping wood, or drinking tea. It was about realizing that enlightenment is not a distant goal, but the very act of sitting, of being in this moment. As we sit here, listening to the wind in the pines, let's carry this awareness with us. We don't need to wait for some future moment to be enlightened, to be peaceful, to be happy. We can be all of these things now, in this moment, simply by sitting, by being present, by accepting ourselves and our experience exactly as they are. The candle in the meditation hall continues to flicker, casting a warm glow over the room. Dogen and the young monks sit in silence, their breath syncing with the rhythm of the wind in the pines. There is no struggle, no striving, just the simple act of being, of sitting, of being alive. This is the peace that comes from shikantaza, just sitting, just being. It is a peace that is always available to us if we can learn to let go of our expectations, our judgments, our need to control. It is a peace that is found not in the absence of thoughts, but in the awareness that we are more than our thoughts. As we prepare to move on, let's take a moment to breathe deeply, carrying this peace with us. Inhale, feeling the presence of this moment, and exhale, releasing any tension or striving. With each breath, remind yourself that you are enough, just as you are. In this moment. The wind in the pines continues to whisper, as if sharing the secret of shikantaza, just sitting, just being. The moon has begun to set, and the first hints of dawn are starting to lighten the eastern sky. There is a sense of newness in the air, a sense that each moment is a fresh opportunity to awaken, to be present, to live fully. This is the gift of shikantaza, the realization that each moment is a new beginning, a chance to start again, to return to the present moment, to the simple act of being. It is a reminder that we don't need to change ourselves or our circumstances to find peace. Peace is here now, in the act of sitting, of breathing, of being alive. As we continue our journey, let's take this practice with us whenever we feel overwhelmed by thoughts. Whenever we feel stressed or anxious, we can pause, sit, and return to our breath. We can remember Dogen's words, shikantaza, just sit. Remember this as you go through your day tomorrow. Even in the busiest moments, you can take a few seconds to practice shikantaza, just sitting, just breathing, just being present. These small moments of mindfulness can accumulate, transforming your experience of the world and helping you too find peace even in the midst of chaos. Peace is here, now, in the simple act of sitting, of being present, of accepting this moment exactly as it is. Just notice, just sit. Shikantaza, just sit. The first light of dawn has painted the eastern sky in soft shades of pink and gold. But here, in the small hermitage nestled among the trees, it is still dim and quiet. The air carries the coolness of night, mixed with the faint scent of sandalwood. From a nearly burned-out candle, the only sound is the soft crackle of the candle's wick as it struggles to stay alight, its flame flickering like a heartbeat, casting long shadows on the rough stone walls. This is where we will meet Ityu Sojun, a 5th-10th century Zen master known for his unorthodox ways and his profound insights into the nature of life and death. Ityu was a monk who rejected the rigid formalism of many Zen institutions, choosing instead a life of simplicity and spontaneity. His teachings are characterized by a raw, unflinching honesty and a deep appreciation for the impermanence of all things. We find Ikkyu sitting on a straw mat near the candle, his posture relaxed, his eyes fixed on the flame. He is an older man with a wild beard and hair, and his robes are tattered and stained. But there is a spark of mischief in his eyes, a wisdom that comes from a life lived fully, without pretense or fear. A young woman sits across from him, her face etched with grief. She has traveled far to seek Ikkyu's guidance, having recently lost her husband to illness. Her eyes are red from crying, and her hands tremble as she clutches a handkerchief. "Master," she says, her voice breaking, "I cannot stop thinking about him. I miss him so much it hurts. Everywhere I look, I see reminders of him, and it feels like my heart is breaking all over again. Will this pain ever end? How can I go on without him?" Ikkyu does not answer immediately. He reaches out and gently adjusts the candle, which has begun to sputter. The flame flares up for a moment and settles back down, smaller than before. "Look at the candle," he says, his voice soft but steady. The woman looks at the flame, confusion in her eyes. "What about it, master?" "It burns brightly." "For a time," Ikkyu says, giving light and warmth. But eventually, the wax is consumed and the flame dies. This is the nature of candles. They are born, they live, they die. There is no sadness in this, just the way of things. He pauses, watching the flame. Life is like this candle. Shmetsu. Wasuyu no Gotoku, birth and death, are like dewdrops. They appear in the morning, glistening in the sunlight, and by midday they are gone, evaporated into the air. They do not grieve their own passing, for they know it is part of the natural order. The woman looks down at her hands, tears welling in her eyes. "But my husband was not a candle or a dewdrop. He was a person, with thoughts and feelings, with a life that was cut short. How can I accept that? Because he was like a dewdrop," Ikkyu says gently. "Like all of us. We appear in this world. We shine for a time, and then we disappear. This is not a tragedy. It is the miracle of existence. To grieve is natural, but to be consumed by grief, to cling to what is gone, is to miss the beauty of what remains." He leans forward, his eyes intense. "Your husband is not truly gone. He lives on in the memories you share, in the love you felt for each other, in the way he changed the world around him. The flame of his life may have died, but its light still shines in you." This understanding of impermanence of life and death as part of a natural cycle is central to Buddhist philosophy. The Buddha taught that all conditioned things are subject to birth, growth, decay, and death. This includes not just physical objects and living beings, but also our thoughts, feelings, and relationships. Nothing is permanent. Nothing lasts forever. In the Diamond Sutra, the Buddha says, "All conditioned things are like a dream, a bubble, a shadow, a dew, a flash of lightning. You should view them thus." This is not a pessimistic view of life, but a realistic one. It is an invitation to embrace life fully, knowing that it is fleeting, and to let go of our attachments to what is impermanent. In our modern world, we often struggle with this reality. We are afraid of death, afraid of loss, afraid of change. We try to hold on to what we love, to control our lives, to avoid the pain of separation. But this only creates more suffering. As the Buddha said, attachment is the root of suffering. Our fear of loss causes us to cling, and our clinging causes us pain when what we love inevitably changes or disappears. Modern psychology explains this fear of loss as a natural part of the human experience. We are wired to form attachments, to seek security and stability. When these attachments are threatened, we experience anxiety and grief. But our minds also have a tendency to catastrophize, to imagine the worst-case scenario, which can amplify our fear and make it harder to cope with loss. EQ's teaching offers a different way to relate to loss. Instead of clinging to what is gone, we can honor it, cherish the memories, and then let go, making space for new experiences, new relationships, new life. This does not mean forgetting or minimizing the pain of loss, but rather allowing ourselves to grieve fully and then to move forward, carrying the love and the lessons with us. So how can we cultivate this kind of acceptance in our own lives? Let's return to the Hermitage, to the flickering candle. Notice how EQ watches the flame without attachment. He does not try to make it burn brighter or last longer. He simply observes it, appreciates it for what it is in this moment, and accepts that it will soon be gone. Tonight, I invite you to practice this kind of acceptance. Think of something or someone you have lost: a relationship, a job, a dream, a loved one. Allow yourself to feel the grief, the sadness, the sense of loss. Do not push it away or judge it. Just let it be, like a wave in the ocean. Now, imagine that loss as a candle flame. It burned brightly for a time, bringing light and warmth to your life. Now it is flickering, ready to go out. Instead of trying to keep it alight, honor it for the light it brought. Give thanks for the time you had together, for the lessons learned, for the love shared. Then imagine letting go, not in a way that denies the loss, but in a way that acknowledges it as part of the natural cycle of life. Trust that even though this flame is dying, new flames will be lit, new joys will be found, new life will emerge. As you do this, you may notice a sense of lightness, a sense of peace. This is not because the loss is any less painful, but because you are no longer fighting against it. You are accepting it, making space for it, and allowing yourself to move forward. The Buddha said in the Dhammapada, just as a snake sheds its skin, let go of the past. This does not mean forgetting the past, but rather not being defined by it, not being trapped by it. We can carry the memories and the love with us, but we do not let them weigh us down or prevent us from living fully in the present. Let's take a moment to breathe deeply into this acceptance. Inhale, feeling the pain of loss, and exhale, releasing the need to hold on. With each breath, allow yourself to be more present to this moment, to the beauty of what is still here, to the miracle of your own existence. The candle in the Hermitage is now just a stub, its flame barely visible. But through the window, we can see the sun rising higher in the sky, casting its golden light over the trees, turning the dew on the leaves into diamonds. There is a sense of renewal in the air, a reminder that even as one thing ends, another begins. This is the truth that Iku understood so deeply, that life and death are two sides of the same coin, that loss and gain are part of the same cycle. To embrace life fully is to embrace its impermanence, to love without clinging, to grieve without being consumed. As we prepare to move on, let's carry this awareness with us. Whenever we are faced with loss, whenever we feel the pain of separation, we can remember the flickering candle and EQ's words. Birth and death are like dewdrops. We can grieve, we can honor what is gone, and then we can let go, trusting in the natural order of things and opening ourselves to the new life that is always waiting to be born. The woman sits quietly, her tears still falling, but there is sense of peace in her demeanor. She looks at the dying candle, then at the rising sun, and she begins to understand. The pain of loss will always be with her, but it will not define her. She will carry the love she felt for her husband in her heart, and she will go on, living her life fully, as a tribute to his memory. This is the gift of accepting impermanence, the ability to grieve deeply and to love fully, to let go and to move forward, to honor the past while embracing the present. It is a gift that is available to us all if we can learn to see life as it is, as a beautiful, fleeting, precious flame dot as we continue our journey. Let's take a moment to breathe, deeply feeling the warmth of the rising sun on our skin, the coolness of the morning air in our lungs. Inhale and feel the life force flowing through you. Exhale and release any fear of loss, any clinging to what is impermanent. Peace is not the absence of loss, but the acceptance of it. It is the ability to find beauty in the fleeting moments, to love without holding on, to grieve without being consumed. It is the wisdom to know that birth and death are like dewdrops, here for a moment, then gone, but part of something larger, something eternal. Remember this as you go through your day tomorrow. Take a moment to appreciate the people and things you love, knowing that they are precious because they are impermanent. Tell someone you care about them. Savor a moment of beauty. Live fully in the present, without reservation. Peace is here now, in the acceptance of life's impermanence, in the gratitude for what is, in the courage to let go. Just notice. Just let go. Birth and death are like dewdrops. The sun has climbed high in the sky, its warm light filtering through the canopy of trees that line the path before us. We leave the Hermitage behind, following a trail that winds through a dense forest, where the air is thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The ground is covered with a soft carpet of fallen leaves, red, gold, and brown, each one a reminder of the cycles of life and death, of growth and decay. This is where we will meet Dongshan Liangji, a 9th century Zen master who founded the Kyodan school of Zen, known as Soto Zen in Japan. Dongshan is known for his profound teachings on the nature of reality and the path to enlightenment, which often drew on images from nature. His life was marked by a series of journeys, both physical and spiritual, that led him to deep insights about the nature of suffering and transformation. We find Dongshan walking along a narrow path that follows a small stream. He is a middle-aged man with a serene expression and a steady gait. His robes are simple, and he carries a small bag slung over one shoulder, containing a few essentials. He has been traveling for days, seeking a quiet place to meditate and reflect, but the path has grown increasingly difficult, winding through rocky terrain and dense undergrowth. As he walks, the stream grows wider and the path becomes more treacherous. Suddenly, he rounds a bend and comes to a halt. The stream has disappeared, its waters flowing into a deep, still pool at the base of a steep cliff. There is no way forward. The path ends here. At the edge of the pool, Dongshan stands at the water's edge, looking out at the cliff that blocks his way. For a moment, he feels a sense of frustration and disappointment. He has traveled so far, only to be stopped by this obstacle. He sits down on a rock, closing his eyes and taking a few deep breaths, trying to calm his mind. As he sits, he begins to notice his surroundings. The pool is crystal clear, reflecting the blue sky and the surrounding trees like a mirror. A family of ducks swims lazily across the water, leaving ripples in their wake. A butterfly flutters by, its wings a vibrant shade of blue. The sound of birds singing fills the air, and the sun warms his face. Slowly, his frustration begins to fade. He realizes that while the path he was following has ended, there are other possibilities. He can turn back, retracing his steps to find another route. He can climb the cliff, though it would be difficult, or he can stay here by the pool and see what wisdom this place has to offer. Xing Dao Shu Qiong Chao Walk until the water ends, he says to himself, a smile spreading across his face. When the water ends, you sit and watch the clouds rise. In this moment, Dongshan experiences a profound insight. Life is like this path full of unexpected turns, obstacles, and dead ends. We set out with a clear destination in mind, only to find that the road we are on leads nowhere. In these moments, we can feel frustrated, disappointed, or lost. But if we are willing to let go of our plans, to sit with the uncertainty, we may discover new possibilities, new insights, new paths that we could not have imagined. This teaching, "Walk until the water ends," is a powerful metaphor for the spiritual journey. It reminds us that enlightenment is not a destination to be reached, but a way of being in the world, one that is open to change, willing to let go of plans, and able to find beauty and wisdom in unexpected places. The Buddha taught this same principle in the Majjhima Nikaya, where he said, "Just as a skilled navigator reads the stars to find his way, a monk reads the signs of his own mind to find the path." This means that we must be attentive to the present moment, to the signs that life presents to us, rather than clinging rigidly to our plans and expectations. In our modern world, we often struggle with this kind of flexibility. We live in a culture that values control, efficiency, and predictability. We make plans and set goals, and we become frustrated when things don't go our way. We see obstacles as failures, dead ends as signs that we have made a mistake. This can lead to a great deal of suffering as we resist the inevitable changes and uncertainties of life. But life is inherently unpredictable. No matter how carefully we plan, things will go wrong, obstacles will arise, and paths will end. The question is not whether these things will happen, but how we respond to them. Will we resist, clinging to our plans and becoming frustrated when they fall apart? Or will we let go, opening ourselves to new possibilities and trusting that even in the midst of uncertainty, there is a way forward? Modern psychology has a term for this ability to adapt to change: psychological flexibility. Research has shown that psychological flexibility is associated with greater well-being, resilience, and happiness. It involves being aware of our thoughts and feelings without judgment, being present to the present moment, and being able to take action in line with our values, even in the face of difficulty. Dongshan's experience at the water's edge is a powerful example of psychological flexibility. Instead of resisting the obstacle, he accepts it, and in doing so, he opens himself to new possibilities. He realizes that the end of one path is not the end of the journey, but the beginning of a new one. So how can we cultivate this kind of flexibility in our own lives? Let's return to Dongshan at the water's edge. Notice how he responds to the obstacle, not with frustration or resistance, but with curiosity and openness. He sits down, observes his surroundings, and allows himself to be present to the moment, even though it is not what he expected. Tonight, I invite you to practice this kind of openness. Think of a situation in your life that is not going as planned: a dead end, an obstacle, a disappointment. It could be a relationship that is struggling, a job that is not fulfilling, or a goal that seems out of reach. Instead of resisting the situation or feeling frustrated by it, try to approach it with the same curiosity and openness that Dongshan showed at the water's edge. Sit with it, observe it, and ask yourself, what is this situation trying to teach me? What new possibilities might it open up? What values are important to me in this moment? And how can I act in line with them, even in the face of difficulty? You may find that this shift in perspective helps you to see the situation in a new light. You may discover that what seemed like a dead end is actually an opportunity to grow, to change direction, or to connect with what is truly important to you. The Buddha said in the Dhammapada, like a lotus flower growing out of the mud, we can rise above our suffering and find enlightenment. This means that our difficulties and obstacles are not just sources of pain, but opportunities for growth and transformation. They can teach us resilience, compassion, and wisdom if we are willing to face them with openness and courage. Let's take a moment to breathe deeply into this realization. Inhale, feeling the weight of the obstacles in your life, and exhale, releasing the resistance and frustration they bring. With each breath, allow yourself to be more present to this moment, to the possibilities that lie within the uncertainty. The pool at the base of the cliff shimmers in the sunlight, its surface calm and clear. Dongshan sits quietly, watching the clouds drift across the sky. He has let go of his plans, his expectations, and his need to control the path. In doing so, he has found a deep sense of peace, a sense of connection to the natural world, and a new understanding of the journey. This is the gift of walking until the water ends, the ability to let go of our plans, to embrace uncertainty, and to find wisdom and beauty in unexpected places. It is a reminder that the journey is not about reaching a destination, but about how we travel with openness, curiosity, and in willingness to adapt to whatever life brings not as we prepare to. Move on. Let's carry this awareness with us. Whenever we encounter obstacles or dead ends in our lives, we can remember Dongshan at the water's edge and his words, "Walk until the water ends." When the water ends, you sit and watch the clouds rise. We can let go of our plans, sit with the uncertainty, and trust that new possibilities will emerge. The path ahead of us now branches, leading in two different directions. We do not know where either path will lead, but that is part of the adventure. There is a sense of excitement in the air, a sense of freedom that comes from letting go of the need to know, to control, to plan. This is the freedom that comes from embracing the unknown, from trusting in the journey, from knowing that even when the water ends, there is still beauty to be found, still wisdom to be gained, still life to be lived. As we continue our journey, let's take a moment to breathe deeply, feeling that freedom in every part of our being. Inhale and feel the possibilities of the unknown. Exhale and release the need to control or predict. With each breath, remind yourself that life is a journey, not a destination, and that the most beautiful moments often come when we least expect them. Remember this as you go through your day tomorrow. When things don't go as planned, when you encounter obstacles or dead ends, try to approach them with openness and curiosity. Ask yourself what new possibilities might be waiting, what wisdom. This situation has to offer. Peace is not the absence of obstacles, but the ability to face them with openness and courage. It is the wisdom to know that when one door closes, another opens, and that even in the midst of uncertainty, there is beauty, growth, and transformation. Peace is here, now, in the willingness to walk until the water ends, to sit and watch the clouds rise, to trust in the journey. Just notice, just walk. Walk until the water ends. The sky has clouded over, and a light snow has begun to fall, dusting the branches of the trees and covering the path with a thin white blanket. The air is cold and crisp, carrying the sharp scent of pine and the faint sweetness of something else, a hint of flowers, blooming gravely in the winter chill. We follow this scent now, leaving the forest path behind and climbing a steep hillside where the snow lies deeper and the wind bites at our cheeks. At the top of the hill, we find a small clearing, and in the center of that clearing, a single plum tree stands, its branches heavy with snow. But despite the cold, despite the snow, the tree is in bloom, delicate pink flowers, their petals glowing against the white backdrop, a testament to resilience, to beauty in the midst of hardship. This is where we will meet Chan Master Beiju again, but this time we encounter him in a different season, a different moment in his life. It is a winter evening, and the snow is falling heavily, sticking to his robes as he walks through the monastery grounds. He is on his way to the meditation hall, but as he passes the gate, he sees an old man standing there, his shoulders hunched. Against the cold, his face lined with worry, the man bows deeply to Beiju. "Venerable Master," he says, his voice trembling, "I have been waiting for you. I need your help." Beijing stops, his breath visible in the cold air. "What troubles you, old friend?" he asks. The man looks up, his eyes filled with sorrow. "I am not a man," he says. "I am a fox. For 500 years, I have been trapped in this form, reborn again and again because of a single mistake I made in a past life." Beijing looks at him with compassion. "What was this mistake?" "I was a Zen master in a previous life," the fox says. "One day, a monk asked me, 'Does a person of great virtue fall under the law of cause and effect?' I replied, 'No, such a person does not fall under the law of cause and effect.' 'And for this, you have been reborn as a fox?' Beijing asks. 'Yes,' the fox says, because my answer was wrong. I clung to the idea that enlightenment frees one from the law of cause and effect, but this is a misunderstanding. The truth is that even the enlightened one is subject to cause and effect, but they act without attachment, without craving, without ignorance. My mistake was in thinking that there is a separate self that can be free from the natural order of things." Beijing nods. "You are right. The correct answer is, yes, such a person falls under the law of cause and effect, but they are not bound by it." As soon as Beijing speaks these words, the fox lets out a cry, and his form begins to change. The snow around him swirls, and when it settles, the fox is gone, replaced by the body of an old man, lying peacefully on the ground, as if he has just fallen asleep. Beijing knows that the fox has finally been released from his cycle of rebirth, freed from the obsession, jinian, attachment, that had trapped him for 500 years. That night, Beijing holds a funeral for the old man, treating him with the respect due a fellow monk. The next day, he tells the story to his disciples, explaining the importance of humility, of not clinging to one's own opinions, of recognizing that even the wise can make mistakes. This story of Beijing and the wild fox is one of the most famous in Zen Buddhism, and it carries a profound message about the danger of obsession, of clinging to our ideas, our opinions, our need to be right. The fox was trapped for 500 years, not because his answer was slightly wrong, but because he clung to it with such certainty, because he believed that his understanding was absolute and final. The Buddha taught extensively about the danger of clinging, which he called apadana. In the second noble truth, he identified craving, tanha, and clinging as the cause of suffering. This includes clinging to sensual pleasures, to views and opinions, to rituals and practices, and to the idea of a separate self. All of these forms of clinging create suffering because they are based on the illusion of permanence, on the idea that we can hold on to things, ideas, or even ourselves, when in reality, everything is impermanent, interconnected, and constantly changing. In our modern world, we often cling to our need to be right, to have the correct opinion, to be seen as intelligent or knowledgeable. This can manifest in arguments with loved ones, in stubbornness in the workplace, in a refusal to consider other perspectives. We believe that being right makes us safe, makes us worthy, makes us in control. But in reality, this need to be right is a form of attachment, an obsession that can trap us, just as surely as the fox was trapped. Modern psychology explains this need to be right as a form of ego defense. Our sense of self is often tied to our opinions, our beliefs, and our knowledge. When these are challenged, we feel threatened, as if our very identity is at stake. This triggers the fight or flight response, leading us to defend our position aggressively, even when it is clear that we are wrong. This not only creates conflict with others, but also prevents us from learning, from growing, from seeing the world as it truly is. The story of Beijing and the fox teaches us that clinging to our ideas, even our spiritual ideas, can be a source of great suffering. The fox was a Zen master, but his attachment to his own understanding prevented him from seeing the truth. and trapped him in a cycle of rebirth. It was only when he was able to let go of his need to be right, to Shengran, acknowledge that his understanding was incomplete, that he was finally free. So how can we free ourselves from the need to be right, from the obsession that traps us? Let's return to the plum tree in the snow. Notice how it blooms, not because it is trying to prove anything, not because it needs to be the most beautiful or the strongest, but simply because that is its nature. It does not cling to the idea of blooming. It just blooms, accepting the cold, the snow, the harshness of winter, and transforming it into beauty. Tonight, I invite you to practice this kind of letting go. Think of a situation where you are clinging to being right, an argument with a friend, a disagreement at work, a belief that you are unwilling to question. Notice how this clinging feels in your body, perhaps a tightness in your chest, a tension in your jaw, a racing heart. Now, imagine what it would be like to let go of this need to be right. Not to abandon your values or your principles, but to recognize that your understanding is limited, that there are other perspectives, that being wrong is not a failure, but an opportunity to learn. As you do this, you may notice a sense of relief, a softening in your body. This is the freedom that comes from letting go of obsession, from recognizing that your worth is not tied to being right, that you can be open, curious, and humble, even in the face of disagreement. The Buddha said in the Dhammapada, do not cling to anything. Let go of all attachments, and you will be free. This is not a call to apathy or indifference, but to a kind of wisdom that recognizes the impermanence and interconnectedness of all things. It is to act with purpose and integrity, but without clinging to the outcome, without needing to be right, without identifying with our opinions. Let's take a moment to breathe deeply into this freedom. Inhale, feeling the weight of your need to be right, and exhale, releasing it, letting it melt away like snow in the sun. With each breath, allow yourself to be more open, more curious, more willing to see things from a different perspective. The plum tree continues to bloom in the snow. Its flowers a reminder that beauty and strength can coexist with humility and acceptance. Beijing walks back to the monastery, his heart light, knowing that he has helped to free a soul from suffering, and that his disciples have learned a valuable lesson about the danger of clinging. This is the gift of letting go of our need to be right, the freedom to connect with others, to learn from our mistakes, to grow and evolve. It is the wisdom to recognize that truth is not something we possess, but something we participate in, something that is revealed through dialogue, through openness, through a willingness to admit when we are wrong. As we prepare to move on, let's carry this awareness with us. Whenever we feel ourselves clinging to being right, whenever we find ourselves in conflict with others over opinions or ideas, we can remember the story of Beijing and the fox, and the blooming plum tree in the snow. We can choose to let go of our obsession, to be open to other perspectives, to recognize that being wrong is not a failure, but a step on the path to wisdom. The snow has stopped falling, and the sun has begun to peek through the clouds, casting a golden light over the landscape. The plum blossoms glisten in the sunlight, their beauty enhanced by the snow that surrounds them. There is a sense of peace in the air, a sense that even in the midst of conflict and misunderstanding, there is the possibility of resolution, of growth, of freedom. That this is the peace that comes from letting go of our need to be right, from embracing humility, from recognizing that we are all on a journey of understanding, and that none of us have all the answers. It is a peace that allows us to connect with others not as adversaries, but as fellow travelers, each with our own limited understanding, each seeking the truth in our own way. As we continue our journey, let's take a moment to breathe deeply, feeling this peace in every part of our being. Inhale and feel the openness of not needing to be right. Exhale and release any tension or conflict that comes from clinging to your opinions. With each breath, Remind yourself that wisdom comes, not from being right, but from being willing to learn, to grow, to change. Remember this as you go through your day tomorrow. When you find yourself in a disagreement, when you feel the need to prove that you are right, take a moment to pause, to breathe, to remember the wild fox and the plum tree. Ask yourself, what is more important, being right or being kind? Being certain or being open? Holding on to your opinion or finding peace? Peace is not the absence of disagreement, but the ability to engage with others with humility, with curiosity, with respect. It is the wisdom to know that your understanding is limited, that there is always more to learn, that being wrong is not a failure, but an opportunity. Peace is here now in the willingness to let go of your need to be right, to embrace the beauty of imperfection, to bloom like the plum tree, even in the snow. Just notice, just let go. You do not need to be right to be free. The first light of dawn seeps over the horizon, painting the sky in soft hues of lavender and gold. The snow that fell overnight glows pink in the early light, and the air carries a quiet stillness, as if the world is holding its breath, waiting for the day to begin. We leave the hillside and the blooming plum tree behind, descending into a valley where an ancient temple sits, its wooden gates weathered by time, its roof tiles dusted with snow. As we approach, the stillness is broken by a deep, resonant sound, the temple bell, ringing out across the valley, its tone rich and full, vibrating in the air and in our bones. It is a sound that has echoed here for centuries, calling monks to morning prayers, marking the passage of time, reminding all who hear it of the transience of life and the permanence of the Dharma. This is where we will meet Master Zhaozhou again, in the final years of his life. He is now over 100 years old, his face lined with the wisdom of a long life, but his eyes still sharp, his mind still quick. He sits in the main hall of the temple, surrounded by his disciples, as the bell continues to ring, its sound gradually fading into the silence. A young monk, new to the temple, raises his hand. "Venerable Master," he says, "I have been studying the sutras, but there is one question that troubles me. Does a dog have Buddha nature?" The other disciples lean forward, curious. This is a question that has been debated in Buddhist circles for centuries. The Buddha taught that all sentient beings have the potential for enlightenment, that Buddha nature is inherent in all of us, like a seed waiting to sprout. But the question of whether this includes animals, especially dogs, which were considered unclean in ancient India, was a matter of some controversy. Zhaozhou looks at the young monk, his eyes twinkling. "No," he says simply, "Go zi wu fo. Xing, a dog, has no Buddha nature." The young monk is shocked. This contradicts everything he has learned. "But Master," he says, "the sutras say that all sentient beings have Buddha nature. How can a dog be an exception?" Before Zhaozhou can answer, another monk speaks up. "Master, I must disagree. If all beings have Buddha nature, then surely a dog does too." Zhaozhou looks at him, then back at the young monk. "Yes," he says, "a dog has Buddha nature." Now the hall is in an uproar. The monks look at each other in confusion. How can Zhaozhou give two contradictory answers to the same question? Is he testing them? Playing a trick? The young monk stands up, his voice trembling with frustration. "Master, you cannot say both. Either a dog has Buddha nature, or it does not. Which is it?" Zhaozhou smiles. "Why do you attach to words?" He asks. Buddha nature is not something that can be captured in yes or no, in has or has not. It is like the bell you heard this morning. You can describe its sound, but you cannot put the sound in a box. You can point to it, but you cannot. Grasp it. He continues, "When I say no, I am pointing to the emptiness of Buddha nature. to the fact that it has no form, no substance, no boundaries. It is not something that can be possessed by a dog or by a human. When I say yes, I am pointing to the fullness of Buddha nature, to the fact that it permeates all things, that there is no separation between the sacred and the profane, between the enlightened and the unenlightened. The young monk looks confused. But Master, these two statements contradict each other. How can they both be true? Because truth is not confined to the limits of your understanding, Jiaozhou says. It is like a mountain. If you stand to the east, it looks one way. If you stand to the west, it looks another. But it is still the same mountain. The problem is not with the mountain, but with your fixed idea of what it should look like. This exchange, the dog Buddha nature koan, is one of the most famous in Zen Buddhism. Like all koans, its purpose is not to provide an answer, but to shatter the mind's attachment to logical thinking, to show that some truths cannot be captured in words or concepts, but must be experienced directly. The Buddha taught that language and concepts are useful tools, but they are not the truth itself. In the Platform Sutra, he said, "The Dharma is like a finger pointing at the moon. Do not mistake the finger for the moon." This means that words and ideas can point us toward the truth, but they are not the truth itself. To confuse the two is to miss the point entirely. In our modern world, we often cling to the illusion of certainty, to the idea that everything can be explained, categorized, and understood. We want clear answers to complex questions, black and white distinctions in a world that is often gray. This attachment to certainty can be comforting, but it also limits our understanding, preventing us from seeing the world as it truly is: dynamic, interconnected, and ultimately mysterious. Modern psychology calls this tendency cognitive closure, the desire to find a clear answer to a question, even if that answer is incomplete or incorrect, rather than living with ambiguity. While this can be useful in some situations, it can also lead to rigid thinking, prejudice, and a refusal to consider new ideas. It can trap us in a narrow view of the world, preventing us from growing and evolving. Jiaozhou's koan challenges this attachment to certainty, inviting us to embrace the mystery, to live with the tension of contradictory truths, to recognize that our understanding is always partial and limited. It is an invitation to let go of the need to know, to control, to have all the answers, and to instead open ourselves to the wonder and ambiguity of life. So how can we cultivate this kind of openness in our own lives? Let's return to the temple. Bell. Its sound is clear and distinct, but it cannot be captured or contained. It arises, lingers, and fades like all phenomena. We can describe it, but our description is not the sound itself. In the same way, we can describe our experiences, our thoughts, our feelings, but these descriptions are not the reality itself. Tonight, I invite you to practice letting go of the need for certainty. Think of a question that you have been struggling with, a personal dilemma, a philosophical puzzle, a moral ambiguity. Instead of searching for a clear answer, try to sit with the question, to embrace the uncertainty, to recognize that there may be no easy solution. Notice how this feels in your body. You may feel a sense of discomfort, of restlessness, as your mind tries to grasp for an answer. This is normal. Our minds are wired to seek closure, to resolve uncertainty. But if you can sit with this discomfort, if you can resist the urge to force an answer, you may find that a new kind of understanding emerges, one that is not based on certainty, but on openness, on curiosity, on a willingness to live with mystery. The Buddha said in the Dhammapada, the wise man, after he has listened to the teachings, becomes peaceful, free from doubt, and free from attachment to views. This does not mean that the wise man has all the answers, but that he has freed himself from the need to have them. He has recognized that doubt and uncertainty are not enemies, but allies, reminding him of the limits of his understanding and the vastness of the mystery. Let's take a moment to breathe deeply into this awareness. Inhale, feeling the weight of your need for certainty, and exhale, releasing it, letting it dissolve into the air. With each breath, allow yourself to be more open to the mystery, more willing to live with ambiguity, more accepting of the limits of your understanding. The temple bell rings again, its sound echoing through the valley, a reminder of the impermanence of all things, including our thoughts and ideas. Zhaozhu sits quietly, watching his disciples as they struggle with the cone, knowing that the struggle itself is the practice, that the questions are more important than the answers. This is the gift of the cone, the recognition that some truths are not meant to be understood, but to be lived. It is the wisdom to know that our understanding is always partial, that there is always more to learn, that the mystery of life is not something to be solved, but to be embraced. As we prepare to move on, let's carry this awareness with us. Whenever we find ourselves clinging to certainty, whenever we demand clear answers to complex questions, we can remember Zhaozhu's cone and the sound of the temple bell. We can choose to let go of the need to know, to embrace the mystery, to recognize that life's most profound truths are often found not in the answers, but in the questions. The sun is now fully risen, casting its warm light over the temple, melting the snow on the roof tiles, which drip slowly onto the stone courtyard below. The monks have left the main hall, heading to the kitchen for breakfast, their minds still turning with the cone, their hearts open to the possibility of understanding. This is the peace that comes from embracing uncertainty, the freedom to live with mystery, to question without demanding answers, to be comfortable in the gray areas of life. It is a peace that does not come from having all the answers, but from being okay with not knowing. As we continue our journey, let's take a moment to breathe deeply, feeling this peace in every part of our being. Inhale and feel the openness of not knowing. Exhale and release any tension that comes from demanding certainty. With each breath, remind yourself that the mystery of life is not a problem to be solved, but a gift to be received. Remember this as you go through your day. Tomorrow, when you encounter questions with no easy answers, when you face uncertainty or ambiguity, try to embrace it, to sit with it, to recognize that this is where growth happens, where wisdom is born. Peace is not the absence of uncertainty, but the ability to live with it, to embrace it, to find beauty in the mystery. It is the wisdom to know that some truths are beyond words, beyond understanding, beyond the limits of your mind. Peace is here now, in the willingness to let go of the need for certainty, to listen for the temple bell of your own heart, to embrace the mystery of being alive. Not just notice, not just wonder. The dog has Buddha nature. The dog has no Buddha nature. Does it matter? As we've journeyed through rain curtains, moonlight, and dawn light, these stories have sown seeds of peace in your heart. May these truths accompany your dreams, making every breath a journey back to yourself. Thank you for sharing this journey. From Zen Mind Temple, good night. May you sleep peacefully.